The apartment complex smelled like old rain and regret. For Ethan Morales, it was just another service call. Another leaky pipe in a city that never slept, never cared. Brooklyn winters were unforgiving, especially when your heating was broken, your bills unpaid, and your past still followed you like a shadow. But when he knocked on the door of apartment 3B, something knocked back from inside. Ethan Morales, 26, is a second-generation Puerto Rican American plumber in New York, raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a mysterious house fire. Ethan is quiet, hardworking, but emotionally distant. He's been having strange dreams lately, visions of drowning, whispers in the pipes, hands reaching through mirrors. He thinks it's stress, or maybe something older. Selena Ashcroft, late 30s, lives alone in a luxury apartment that feels out of place in the aging building. She's tall, poised, with a voice like velvet and eyes that never blink enough. Dressed in a silk robe and barefoot, she invites Ethan in with a smirk. "The leak's somewhere deep under the floor," she says, but it's her words that drip like honey. Every time Ethan comes to fix something, Selena finds a reason to keep him, a drink, a question, a story about the old spirit trapped under the floorboards. She says it like a joke, but her touch lingers too long. The tension sizzles. He knows he should leave, but her perfume follows him home. That night, he finds water dripping from his own ceiling, with her voice whispering through the pipe. As he returns, he notices strange things. Her mirrors reflect different angles. Time slows in her hallway. His tools rust the second they touch her floor. And one night, when he's fixing her bathroom sink, he sees something in the drain. An eye, watching him. Ethan confides in Jalen, his old childhood friend who works at a metaphysical bookstore in Harlem. Jalen reads tarot and believes in ancestral curses. Jalen warns, "That woman ain't normal. She's a water witch, what they used to call a siren. She binds men through desire and drowns them in their own shadows." One stormy night, Selena calls him in a panic, says the entire lower level is flooding. He arrives soaked and out of breath. The hallway is pitch black. The power's out. Down in her flooded basement, Selena stands barefoot, wearing nothing but a sheer slip. Her hair floats, as if underwater. "You were never just a plumber," she says. "Your blood calls to me." Behind her, in the water's reflection, he sees a version of himself smiling back, only it has black eyes. Then the door slams shut. The wrench slipped from Ethan's hand and clattered into the flooded basement floor, water splashing up his worn jeans. He didn't move. He just stared at the rust-stained pipe, blinking back the tears that had nothing to do with the cold. Today marked exactly 1 year since his little sister drowned in the bathtub, and he still hadn't fixed the leak. They said it was an accident, that the old plumbing short-circuited the heater, and the water rose while she slept. But Ethan knew better. He'd heard her voice through the pipes every night since, soft, almost humming. It wasn't grief that clung to him. It was guilt. Now every time he stepped into a stranger's home to fix their water, he prayed it wouldn't talk back. Ethan lived in a cramped basement studio in East Flatbush, where the heating hissed louder than the TV and the mold grew like it paid rent. The walls were thin. The neighbors fought like enemies. But it was quiet enough to hear the pipes whisper, and that was something he never got used to. Every morning he woke up stiff from a worn-out couch, bed, and made coffee with a kettle that leaked. He didn't bother fixing it. Something about the drip, drip, drip grounded him, reminded him he was still here, still breathing. His phone was always on low battery. His fridge never stayed full, but his toolbox, that he kept polished like it was made of gold. Ethan worked for a local plumbing outfit that paid cash under the table. No union, no benefits, just enough to buy groceries and keep a little shrine lit in the corner of his room. Photos of his sister Leela, and a bundle of sage he couldn't afford to replace. People called him quiet, cold, but he wasn't. He was tired of saying, "I'm sorry," when what he really wanted was to scream. Why didn't anyone save her? It started with the drains. Ethan would fix a pipe, double-check the seal, clean up his tools, and then an hour later, it would be leaking again. Not a normal leak, though. The water came out warm, sticky almost. It smelled faintly like iron and roses. Then came the mirrors. Whenever he shaved, he'd catch a flicker behind him, just over his shoulder, like someone was standing there watching. He'd spin around fast, adrenaline flaring. Nothing. Always nothing. But the dreams were the worst. In them he floated in dark water, always weightless, always sinking. Something pulled at his ankles, not violently, just insistently, like a child begging to be noticed. He'd try to scream, but only bubbles escaped. And then he'd see her, Leela, his little sister. Pale, waterlogged, eyes wide open. She never moved, never spoke, except last night. She reached for him through the black water, placed a hand against his chest, and whispered, "Don't trust the one with the pretty voice." Ethan woke up gasping, shirt soaked, the sound of running water echoing through the room. Even though the faucets were dry, he didn't talk about it. Not to Jalen, not to anyone. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. Something had followed him home that night. Something wet. Something ancient. Jalen had known Ethan since they were kids. Back when the only thing they feared was missing the ice cream truck and the loudest sound on the block was a summer basketball game. Now, they met in quieter places. Usually the back room of Jalen's metaphysical bookstore, the 6th page, tucked between a Caribbean bakery and a pawn shop in Crown Heights. The shop smelled like sandalwood and old paper. Ethan always said it reminded him of his grandmother's house. Jalen said that was probably the ghosts. Jalen wasn't just a friend. He was a believer. He read tarot, studied ancestral rites, knew the difference between a haunting and a possession, but most of all, he listened. When Ethan started talking about strange dreams, flickering shadows, and whispers in the pipes, Jalen didn't laugh. He just said, "Something's knocking. You're gonna open the door or seal it shut." Ethan wanted to seal it shut, desperately, but something in him, the part that still lit candles for Leela every Thursday, felt like he owed the truth more than his fear. Jalen offered him a charm, worn on a thin black cord. Obsidian, for protection. "It can't stop what's already inside you," he said gently, "but it might keep the outside out." Ethan tucked it in his shirt. Didn't argue. For a moment. In that warm little bookstore, surrounded by incense and old gods, he almost felt safe. But then the light bulb above them flickered once, twice, and the ceiling vent began to drip. Just one drop. Thick red. Jalen's expression darkened. "That ain't water. The call came at 12:03 a.m. Ethan had just finished patching a busted sink in Flatlands when his phone buzzed. Unknown caller. Normally, he'd let it go to voicemail, but something about the timing, the stillness in the air made him pick up. Her voice poured through the speaker, silk-wrapped and trembling. Ethan. It was her. The woman from apartment 3B. "I need help. It's flooding. Please come now." No address, no instructions, just that voice. The line cut. The building looked different at night. Older, quieter. Like it had taken a breath and refused to let it out. The elevator was dead, so Ethan climbed 3 flights of narrow stairs, flashlight in hand, each step creaking like a warning. At the top, apartment 3B stood open. Inside, it was warm. Too warm. Steam clung to the walls. The hallway lights flickered like they were underwater. He stepped in. "Selena," he called, cautiously. From down the hall, water trickled from beneath the bathroom door. He pushed it open slowly. The bathtub was full, overflowing. But the water wasn't clear. It was murky, swirling with shadows. Floating on top were rose petals and hair. Selena stood in the middle of it, fully clothed, soaked head to toe, her eyes glowing faintly blue. Her lips curled into a smile, not warm, not human. "You came?" she whispered. "I knew you would." He tried to back away, but his feet wouldn't move. The floor was wet beneath him, slick like oil, and something grabbed his ankle. He looked down. A pale, bloated hand reached up from the water, nails broken, fingers twitching. Leela's bracelet clung to its wrist. "Ethan," came her voice, gurgling, desperate, from beneath the tub. Then the bathroom door slammed shut behind him, and the light went out. The darkness wrapped around Ethan like a second skin, thick and wet, heavy with the scent of roses and rot. He fumbled for the flashlight, but it was gone, lost to the flood beneath his feet. The tub gurgled behind him, and that hand, Leela's hand, slipped back into the murk as if it had never existed. "Ethan." Selena breathed from somewhere in the dark. Her voice wasn't trembling now. It was calm, confident, like she was in control of every inch of the air between them. "I didn't mean to scare you." Something brushed against his chest. Fingers. Warm. Delicate. "You felt her, didn't you? Your sister." Selena stepped closer and he felt her breath at his neck. "She's close to you." "So close?" "That's why the water calls you." He should have run. Should have shoved open the door, broken a window, screamed. But her presence was a storm he couldn't move through. A gravity stronger than fear. I don't understand, he managed, his voice cracking. She touched his face, slowly. You will. A soft hum filled the room, no source, just a melody that seemed to rise from the water itself. Selena's hand slid from his cheek to his chest, resting above his heart. You've been drowning your whole life, Ethan. Not in water and guilt, in pain. But what if I told you? I can give you a way out. Her lips brushed his jaw. I can show you how to breathe again. He shook his head, but didn't pull away. I saw her. Leela, she tried to grab me. Selena nodded, her eyes gleaming. She's not angry. She's waiting. You're part of this. You always were. You feel it, don't you? When you're near the water, the heat in your veins, the voices in the pipes. You were born marked. Marked. The word echoed inside him, cold and true. Selena's hands drifted lower, trailing the edge of his shirt, damp fabric sticking to his skin. Her every movement was slow, deliberate, magnetic. The room no longer felt like a prison. It felt like an altar. You're afraid of me, she said softly. But you came. I came because you needed help, he whispered, breath shallow. No, she smiled. You came because something inside you wanted this. She pressed her body against his, and the heat was unbearable, intoxicating. Her lips brushed his once, then again. Deeper, until he couldn't tell if he was kissing her or simply falling. Their mouths met in silence, the kind that wraps around a moment like fate. The kind you never walk back from. She tasted like honey and salt water, sweet and ancient. His hands gripped her waist, sliding over the slick silk of her soaked dress. She pressed herself closer, her body arching into him as if they'd always known each other in some other life, in some deeper ocean. The water on the floor rose. Still, he didn't stop. Still, he kissed her, and when her nails dug gently into the back of his neck, when she whispered, "Let go," something inside Ethan cracked open. He didn't know if it was love, lust, or the start of something unholy. But he knew this, he wasn't alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that was worse. The water was gone by morning. Ethan jolted upright in a strange bed, heartbeat thunderous, skin damp with sweat. Not water, not anymore. The apartment was silent, bathed in an eerie golden light that filtered through gauzy curtains. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he smelled it. Roses, warm, faint, and lingering. He was shirtless, his jeans still wet from the night before, but the rest of him, his skin, his lungs, his very blood, felt different, like something had passed through him, or maybe something had stayed behind. The bathroom door stood slightly ajar. "Selena," he called, voice rough. No answer. He slid off the bed. The floor was dry, impossibly dry, considering the flood he'd stepped into hours earlier. He walked down the hall, hand brushing the wall, half expecting it to breathe back at him. The place was too quiet. No sound of the city, no running water, no hum of life. Just stillness. And then he saw her. She was on the balcony, silhouetted by the morning sun. A sheer black robe wrapped loosely around her. Her long hair glistened like it had never been wet. She turned her head slightly when she felt him watching. "You stayed," she said softly, not turning around. He swallowed. "I didn't mean to." A smile touched her lips. "But you did." He stepped closer, unsure of what to say, unsure of what he was now. Selena turned to face him, eyes still holding that otherworldly glow, dimmer in the daylight, but no less powerful. "Last night wasn't a dream, Ethan, and it wasn't a mistake." He looked at her. Really looked. She was beautiful, yes, dangerously so. But behind the sensuality, behind the mystery, was a power he couldn't define. Something watching him through her eyes, something ancient. "What did you do to me?" Selena stepped forward, her fingers grazing the line of his jaw. "I opened a door you were born to walk through." She slid her hand down his chest, over his heart. It beat faster under her touch. "You feel it, don't you? The water inside you. It listens to you now. Try it." He glanced toward the sink. She nodded. "Go ahead." He walked slowly to the faucet, reached out and turned the handle. Nothing happened. Then, without touching anything else, the pipes groaned, and the faucet burst open. Water streaming out in a perfect, glistening arc, but it didn't splash. It hovered mid-air, a serpentine strand of liquid sway into his breath. His mouth went dry. Selena laughed softly behind him. You're waking up? He turned to her. What are you? She tilted her head. What I am doesn't matter as much as what you are becoming. He took a step back, but the water followed, curling like a ribbon in the air. I don't want this, he said quietly. Yes, you do, she replied. You've wanted it your whole life. You just didn't know what it was. His phone buzzed violently in his jeans. He fumbled it out. Jalen, he answered. Ethan. Jalen's voice was hoarse, rushed. Get out of that apartment. Now, I found something. She's not human. She's not a witch. She's the line cut. Selena reached out and gently took the phone from his hand, setting it on the table with impossible calm. Don't be afraid, she whispered. I'm not, he said, but it was a lie. Because when he looked down at his arm, the veins beneath his skin shimmered, blue and silver, like water catching moonlight. He wasn't just changing. He was already changed. Ethan didn't go home that night. He tried, packed his tools, slipped on his soaked hoodie, even made it down the hallway, but his feet betrayed him. Every step away from Selena's apartment felt like dragging an anchor through wet sand. By the time he reached the bottom floor, his heart thudded like he was suffocating. He turned back. She opened the door before he could knock, as if she'd been waiting. No words were exchanged. She simply reached for his hand, and he followed her back inside like gravity itself had shifted. The nights that followed blurred into something dreamlike. Long hours wrapped in silk sheets, shadows flickering in corners, and water running in taps that never turned. Selena touched him like she was sculpting something out of flesh, shaping not just his body but his soul. Ethan had never known pleasure like this. It wasn't just sex. It was surrender. It was communion. Their bodies moved together like tides, rising, breaking, pulling back just to crash again. And each time she kissed him, each time she whispered his name, he changed a little more. His skin glowed faintly in the dark. His reflection shimmered distorted. He no longer needed to breathe deeply to hold it underwater. Sometimes he didn't need to breathe at all. But not everything was beautiful. One night, as he lay tangled beside her, he asked, What's happening to me? Selena's hand traced slow circles over his chest. You're becoming who you were always meant to be, she said. He sat up, jaw clenched. Stop saying that. Just tell me what I am. She looked at him for a long time. Then, softly, there's a river beneath the city. Old, older than names. It touches certain bloodlines. Yours is one. When your sister died, it called to her. She heard it. But she wasn't the one it wanted. She paused, watching him carefully. It wanted you. Ethan's mouth went dry. You're not just marked. You're chosen. The river is waking, and it needs a guardian, a vessel. He shook his head. I'm not some monster. I fix pipes, Selena. I bury paint. I survive. Selena's eyes turned cold, not angry, just eternal. You think this is about you. She stood, robe falling off her shoulder, revealing a mark just below her collarbone. A glyph, faint and silver, glowing like wet starlight. I've served it for 93 years, she said. Silence filled the space between them. You're not human, I was, once. Until I heard it too. Ethan stood slowly, heart pounding. You used me. No, she said, stepping forward. I woke you. But why me? She touched his cheek, tender. Because you already lived through drowning, and you chose to keep breathing. His legs trembled. Not from fear, from the terrible understanding that he wasn't going back to his old life. He couldn't. The next morning, he found Jalen outside his building, pacing like a man on fire. Jesus, Ethan, you look like you've been hit by a lightning storm, Jalen said. I need answers, Ethan said, and I need to know the truth about her, about me. Jalen swallowed, eyes serious. You're not gonna like what I found. They sat in the back of the 6th page, incense burning low, books sprawled open. There's an old myth, Jalen said, flipping through pages. About a creature that guards a water gate beneath Brooklyn. Some say it's a god, some say it's a prison. It chooses people, gives them beauty, power, immortality. But it takes something in return. What? Jalen looked up. Everything you were. Ethan stared at the glyph on his wrist, one that hadn't been there yesterday. Outside, thunder cracked, clear skies be damned. And far below the bookstore, in the subway tunnels drowned long ago, something ancient stirred. The rain came without warning. By noon, the skies over Brooklyn had cracked open like a curse, pouring silver sheets over the rooftops, flooding gutters, and turning alleyways into miniature rivers. But it wasn't the kind of storm people noticed anymore, because this wasn't a storm of weather. It was a storm of awakening. Ethan stood by Jalen's side in the back room of the 6th page, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and something older. Pages turned themselves. The books around them whispered softly in a language neither of them understood. Jalen lit another stick of sage with shaking hands. I've read these myths before, but I never thought they were real. Ethan didn't respond. He was staring at his palm, where the watermark had spread, like veins of silver branching out from the glyph. It pulsed faintly with every beat of his heart. You said it takes something in return, Ethan murmured. What did she lose, Jalen? Selena? What did it take from her? Jalen met his eyes. Her soul, I think, her reflection. Time, for sure. You don't live 90, 3 years looking 20, 9 without bleeding for it. He hesitated. And probably the ability to love anything but it. Ethan flinched. He wanted to believe last night meant something. The way she touched him, held him, breathed his name like it was sacred. But what if it was just part of the binding? What if every kiss had been a ritual? Outside thunder rolled again, closer this time. Jalen opened a thick, leather-bound book and laid it on the table. The page showed an ancient drawing. A man standing waist, deep in water, arms outstretched. A storm raged above him, while hundreds of faces reached up from below, some crying, some smiling. Below the image was a single word etched in faded ink. Ultimate. What is that? Ethan asked. Jalen ran a finger beneath the word. Old tongue. It means the one who is both gate and guardian. It's not just a title. It's a role, a curse. Once chosen, the vessel becomes part of the current itself. Immortal, yes, but never free. Ethan stepped back. No, I didn't choose this. Jalen looked at him sadly. Maybe you didn't, but she did. Lightning flashed outside. The shop's lights flickered. Then the front bell rang. They both froze. No one had come in through the door, but the bell had rung. Jalen grabbed a ceremonial blade from beneath the counter. Ethan didn't move. He was already turning toward the sound, drawn by something not human, not logical. Something in him wanted to answer. The lights died completely. The shadows in the shop deepened, lengthened, began to crawl. Jalen gripped the blade. Get behind me. But Ethan didn't move. He walked toward the front of the store slowly, as if underwater. His fingers brushed every spine of every book, and the shadows followed him, flickering along the shelves. Then the door creaked open. A woman stood in the doorway. Not Selena. This one was smaller, thinner, pale. Her eyes were milky white, and her mouth opened in a silent scream as water poured from it, rushing down her chin, soaking her dress, flooding the floor beneath her. Jalen choked. That's Leela. Ethan's heart stopped. His sister's drowned body stared back at him, possessed by something terrible. Her lips moved again, and this time a whisper reached them. He has to drown. He has to become. The lights burst in a flash of blinding blue. Water crashed through the store windows like a tidal wave. Jalen screamed, and then everything went black. Ethan opened his eyes to darkness. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was wet, alive, breathing. He was suspended, not drowning, not floating, just existing in a space that hummed with ancient energy. The river realm, a place beneath all things, beneath the city, beneath time. 1,000 voices whispered around him like ripples. Some cried, some called his name, one sang. Then she emerged, Selena, naked, luminous, walking toward him across the liquid void as if it were solid ground. Water curled around her ankles like silk. Her eyes shimmered, no longer blue, but storm silver. Ancient and divine, you made it, she said. Ethan's voice was low, steady. You pulled me here. No, she whispered, stopping inches from him. You answered. Her hand found his chest, and the mark over his heart burned bright, the glyph complete now, spreading over his body like a crown of waves, glowing with living light. You were never just a man, Ethan. You were always the gate. The storm has waited a long time for its guardian. And what are you? He asked. Selena smiled. The one who holds the key. She leaned in. Her lips met his not with fire, but with something deeper. Tied in gravity, possession and surrender, their bodies met in silence, skin to skin, soul to soul, bound in a current older than language. The river didn't rage. It claimed. In that kiss, he saw everything. His sister's death, his pain, his purpose. He was never meant to run from the water. He was born from it. When they broke apart, the realm pulsed. The voices rose like thunder. Selena stepped back, her form already fading, as though her purpose had been fulfilled. "The current is yours now, ultimate," she said. "Guard it well or drown with it." Then she was gone, dissolved into mist, and Ethan stood alone, but no longer human. His eyes glowed with the color of deep water. His blood sang with the voices of the drowned, and far above, in the waking world, the first cracks opened in the city's foundations, a warning of the flood to come. The river had a guardian now, and Ethan Morales was reborn. The ultimate.